Hi everyone. We are beginning to read the letters of Screwtape. These are letters from a senior to a junior devil in Lewis's book, The Screwtape Letters. We're not going to read every letter, but I did find many of the letters had some very profound truths about our own human weaknesses and muddled thinking. So we're going to just read parts of some of the letters. So this is the second letter. My dear Wormwood, I note with grave displeasure that your patient has become a Christian. One of our great allies at present is the Church itself. Do not misunderstand me. I do not mean the Church as we see her spread out through all time and space and rooted in eternity, terrible as an army with banners. That, I confess, is a spectacle which makes our boldest tempters uneasy. But fortunately, it is quite invisible to these humans. All your patient sees is the half-finished sham Gothic erection on the new building estate. And when he goes inside, he sees the local grocer with rather an oily expression on his face, bustling up to offer him a shiny little book containing a liturgy, which neither of them understands, and one shabby little book containing corrupt texts in a number of religious lyrics, mostly bad, and in very small print. When he gets to his pew and looks around him, he sees just that selection of his neighbors whom he has hitherto avoided. You want to lean pretty heavily on those neighbors. Make his mind flit to and fro between an expression like the body of Christ and the actual faces in the next pew. It matters very little, of course, what kind of people the next pew really contains. You may know one of them to be a great warrior on the enemy's side. No matter. Your patient, thanks to our Father below, is a fool. Provided that any of those neighbors sing out of tune, or have boots that squeak, or double chins, or odd clothes, the patient will quite easily believe that their religion must therefore be somehow ridiculous. At his present stage, you see, he has an idea of Christians in his mind, which he supposes to be spiritual, but which in fact is largely pictorial. His mind is full of togas and sandals and armor and bare legs, and the mere fact that other people in church wear modern clothes is a real, though of course an unconscious, difficulty to him. Never let it come to the surface. Never let him ask what he expected them to look like. Keep everything hazy in his mind now, and you will have all eternity wherein to amuse yourself by producing in him the peculiar kind of clarity that hell affords. Work hard, then, on the disappointment or anticlimax, which is certainly coming to the patient during his first few weeks as a churchman. And then further in the letter he says, if once they get through this initial dryness successfully, they become much less dependent on emotion, and therefore much harder to tempt. I have been writing hitherto on the assumption that the people in the next pew afford no rational ground for disappointment. Of course, if they do, if the patient knows that the woman with the absurd hat is a fanatical bridge player, or the man with the squeaky boots is a miser and an extortioner, then your task is so much the easier. All you then have to do is to keep out of his mind the question, if I, being what I am, can consider that I am in some sense a Christian, why should the different vices of those people in the next pew prove that their religion is mere hypocrisy and convention? You may ask whether it is possible to keep such an obvious thought from occurring even to a human mind. It is, Wormwood, it is. handle him properly, and it simply won't come into his head. He has not been anything like long enough with the enemy to have any real humility yet. What he says, even on his knees, about his own sinfulness is all parrot talk. At bottom, he still believes he has run up a very favorable credit balance in the enemy's ledger by allowing himself to be converted, and thinks that he is showing great humility and condescension in going to church with these smug, commonplace neighbors at all. Keep him in that state of mind as long as you can. Your affectionate uncle, Screwtape. So as a former witness, there was a period of time where I wouldn't have gone to church. It was a long time, well, at least a year, I think, before I would enter a church. Because I had in the back of my head this vision of demons behind every pew, growing up thinking the churches were the devil's house. That was my thinking. So I was very nervous of going to church for the first time. So I think this is very illuminating about our own flawed approach to things, the way we see things, and only from one side, not oftentimes really looking at ourselves carefully. So the resistance to go to church is strong among ex-witnesses. So I wanted to link you to another C.S. Lewis book that I reviewed, Mere Christianity. The very first one has a lovely illustration of what it's like to try to find out where to go to church. So it's called Why This Former JW Loves C.S. Lewis. Can you, an ex-witness, are you an ex-witness still standing in the hall? So he has this illustration of a hall that you go into and lots of doors representing denominations. But it's very, very nicely put by C.S. Lewis, so I would recommend that one. Also, a second one that David and I did recently on the book of Revelation, the 7 churches. Which one of Christ's 7 churches in the book of Revelation, chapters 1 to 3, which one would you as a JW attend?